ESPN's Dan Graziano with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. You can catch him regularly this NFL season on NFL Insiders on ESPN. It airs 2:30 in the afternoons. And Graz, we got to start with Deflategate today because the words of Robert Kraft and the way he throws down the gauntlet with the NFL today, is he upsetting the apple cart with the other owners in the NFL with this stance that he took today?
I don't think so. Upsetting the apple cart with the other owners in the NFL would have been to challenge the discipline against the organization, to challenge the imposition of a $1 million fine and the taking of draft picks. But he elected not to do that, and I think this is just tough talk for his fans, right? I mean, this is just, hey, this is what the Patriots fans want their owner to sound like right now because he's articulating what they're feeling. There's no consequences behind anything he said today. So it sounded great. But you know what? He doesn't take any questions. His coach doesn't take any questions. His quarterback doesn't take any questions. There's a ton of questions out there that still have to be answered, and they all get out of it by, well, he acts defiant, and Belichick acts like no one's talking to him. And it's just, it plays great for the Patriots fans, and that's all they care about.
It's entertaining for us, but if you're a Patriots beat writer, it's got to drive you nuts that Belichick gives you nothing every single day, right?
It's like a Seahawks writer with Marshawn Lynch, except Marshawn Lynch isn't the head coach. I mean, you need a head coach to give you information about what's going on with the team. Basic stuff, like who's going to play. But this guy must be, I can't imagine covering him. I don't know. I don't know how he gets away with it, but I guess when he wins 4 Super Bowl titles, he get away with whatever you want.
Yeah. Makes you grateful for Coughlin all of a sudden, right?
Right. You know what? It makes Coughlin look like a chatterbox, honestly, which is hard to do.
Yeah.
Now, Dan, when we look at this situation, we've got the NFL saying that Brady destroyed the phone. We've got Belichick. Belichick's not saying anything, but we got Kraft and Brady saying he supplied the information. What is the truth behind this dang cell phone?
I mean, I don't know. I think, why would the league want to be out to get Tom Brady? What's the incentive there? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me why the league would not want Tom Brady on the field for that Thursday night opener against the Steelers. So to operate as they seem to be from the standpoint of, the big bad NFL is out to get Tom Brady is idiotic because that doesn't make any sense. So the league heard from one of its teams, in this case the Colts, that rules were being broken. It conducted an investigation and found that rules had been broken. They figured out who was most likely breaking them. They tried to talk to the guy. He wouldn't talk to them, or he wouldn't give them the information they needed. So if you're being investigated for a crime and you obstruct the investigation, that's tacit admission of guilt. You're punished as a guilty party. That's what the league is doing, and I guess there has to be some truth to what the league is saying with regard to the phone, and Brady's explanation doesn't hold water. So I guess while I believe the league has handled this poorly and clownishly from the start, and that 4 games is an excessive punishment for an offense like this for a first-time offender, he's almost taken it to another level to where you now make the league look, even less incompetent than it actually is.
Good stuff. ESPN's
Dan. It's a mess, man. It's a mess.
It's a disaster. ESPN's Dan Graziano with Armen and Levack at Dan Graziano, ESPN on Twitter. Dan, the Giants report tomorrow. They start Friday at training camp. Is there going to be an Eli Manning deal done by Friday's first practice? I don't think so. It remains possible. I think both sides understand where the deal is, and it's just a matter of agreeing to it. But I don't think there's a huge rush to get that done. I think the Giants feel like, well, it'd be nice to get it done and then just not have to worry about it next February or March. But they're not terrified of having to deal with this next February or March. They can do it then. They can franchise him if they need to. So I think a deal could get done this week or early in training camp, but I don't think there's a real urgency on the part of either side to do it now as opposed to doing it next year. The timing was weird. Was there a specific reason as to why it came up last week and was reported that, hey, this thing's almost done? I don't remember saying it was almost done. What I was told last week was that there had been an increase in conversation, the increase in the intensity of the conversation around it in recent weeks. Okay. Just, what was presented to me was the team was interested in finding out if it could get done before camp because that would be the ideal situation, though not 100% necessary. So they have had recent talks, and that was news because they hadn't been talking prior to a few weeks ago.
They had a conversation back in March after Roethlisberger's deal was done, and the Giants basically found out what they expected to find out, which is, we're going to expect our guy to be paid at the top of the market. And then they didn't talk for a while, and then they started talking again lately. And so it's interesting, whenever they're talking, that indicates that maybe something can get done.
Speaking of talking, Dan, has there been any contact between the Giants and JPP at this point?
Well, there's contact. I mean, I understand he's been in contact with the defensive line coach, Robert Nunn, who he's fairly close with. He had been in contact with him earlier in the offseason because, they're installing a new defense, and he hasn't practiced in it, so he's maintaining that contact. And individually, team officials and teammates have reached out to him via text or phone call and gotten the text or call returned. In terms of official contact on, hey, when are we going to see you? What's your medical condition? What can we expect from you this year? That kind of stuff hasn't happened, and he's staying out of sight while he's doing his own rehab at home in Florida as opposed to letting the team direct his rehab.
The individual that gets the biggest opportunity with JPP not being in camp, is that DeMontre Moore?
It could be, but yeah, I mean, it could be. It'll be interesting to see what they do on that side of the line. There's a guy they drafted in the third round a couple of years ago, and he's still very young. I think he's still 22. And he from the coaching staff standpoint, he acts it. They've had a hard time getting him to really embrace what they expect of him in practice, what they expect of him in terms of his responsibilities on certain plays. He has frustrated them, and he wasn't around for a lot of the off-season program. He went back to A&M to work on his degree. He had a shoulder injury. He's still coming back from. So he's the guy that still has a ways to go before they trust him to put him on the field. He has an incredible amount of athletic ability, and if the light does go on for him, it could come quickly. But at this point, they like Robert Ayers. They like this guy, George Selvey. They signed from the Cowboys, especially as a guy who could set the edge against the run. There's an undrafted guy named Kerry Wynn who played for them at the end of last year a little bit that, their coaches kind of dig. He's a do-everything-right kind of guy, not spectacular, but, unlike DeMontre, they give him something to do in practice and he does it, as opposed to struggling with it. So they have a lot of options there. None of them are great. They can move Cullen Jenkins out there to play end if they're stuck. The thing Pierre Paul gives them is an established player who can operate at a high level. They've seen him have a 16-sack season, a 12-sack season. They know offenses have to account for him. None of the guys we just talked about are guys that are going to strike any fear in the hearts of an offensive coordinator making a game plan against the Giants' defense. So with Pierre Paul out, they lose that element, that player who can help elevate their defense to another level by his own play. None of these other guys have shown the ability to do that.
Graz, as you look at this, the pick this year of Owa Odigizua, does this open the door for him to maybe jump up?
That's a guy I could have listed there just now and didn't. But yes, he is, from what I'm told, someone the coaches like a lot. They drafted him in the third round. He also had an injury in spring. It's the Giants, so everyone's injured all the time. But he had an injury in spring that kept him off the field a bit. They got to see him a little bit in minicamp. When they drafted him, they believed that he was a guy who was fundamentally sound, could help against the run, and who needed a little bit of refinement in terms of specific pass rush moves and things he could do to get into the backfield. So they'll work with him on that. Physically, they love him. And they think he's a guy that could help quickly, but he's going to have to go through some development in training camp that he should have gone through in the spring but couldn't because he had a little bit of an injury.
ESPN's Dan Graziano with Armen and Levack on 104.5 The Team. Dan, how confident are the Giants that Eric Flowers is going to work at left tackle?
How confident? On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being completely confident, how confident are the Giants that Eric Flowers can play left tackle for them this year effectively? I would say 5.
Oh.
And I think that's just because they haven't seen him in pads yet. In those spring practices, it's just shorts and T-shirts, and it's very, very difficult to evaluate offensive line play because no one's touching anybody. So they'll get a better sense of that in the coming weeks. He's very young. He's 20. I think he just turned 21. He's very raw. They did not draft him to be a left tackle right away. They drafted him thinking he could be a left tackle in the future if given the right kind of development and coaching. Obviously, that's going to have to be accelerated if they do plan to put him there right away. And we'll see in the next week or so how they're lining things up in camp. But I think at this point they don't know enough to be really confident. They like the player, they like his talent, they like his attitude, they like everything about him. They just don't know if he's going to be ready yet, because that transition from college to the pros at that position is not an easy one, and it's unfair to expect anyone to make it right away.
Is that a little bit of worry, that 50-50 kind of thing, why Jake Long is making his second visit to the Giants?
Well, with Will Beattie hurt, Flowers, who was supposed to be right tackle, is now left tackle, and Marshall Newhouse, who was supposed to be a backup, is now right tackle. So what you've done is you've eaten away at your depth. So Long is a guy that intrigues them, obviously pedigree, a former number 1 overall pick, a guy who's played at a high level in the league, but he's also coming off 2 knee surgeries in the last couple of years. So he's a guy that they have in now today for a second visit. He was there a couple months ago. They're checking him out again today. 9 months removed from ACL surgery. I don't think they know how much he can give them. But if they're happy with where he is in his rehab and they like the player, as they seem to, why not bring him in case? Maybe even if he can't get on the field in training camp because he's still rehabbing, maybe he's a guy who could sit next to Eric Flowers and help teach him things, about playing left tackle in the NFL. And then maybe if he can give you something physically, maybe you can spot him in at right tackle or left tackle as Flowers. But I think given what it would cost to sign him, which is practically nothing, it's probably worth having him in your building. So that's, I think, why they're dabbling there. I don't know that they'll sign him. They could run to a physical today and find out, no way, that knee's never going to hold up and just pass. But they could also bring him in because I don't think it's going to cost them anything to take that chance, and it might help them in terms of depth.
ESPN's Dan Graziano with Armen Levack on 104.5 The Team. What are the expectations for Victor Cruz in training camp this month from the Giants?
We hear positive things about Cruz and the expectations for him. He's been running routes for a few months now. We'll see. They'll limit him early on in camp. Obviously, they're not going to just throw him out there full practice first day. But they believe he'll be able to be on the field as early as, end of this week, early next week, and doing some things. And then, of course, as they escalate his activity, they continue to evaluate how he's handling it all. They may have to back him off if he feels something in the knee. It's a serious injury he's coming back from, and it's a tough one to come back from. Not everybody does. The Cowboys just cut that running back who used to play for the Cardinals named Ryan Williams. The Cowboys just cut him because, for health reasons. He's a torn patellar tendon, same injury as Victor. And that's a couple years ago. He's never been able to come back fully from it. So that remains a possibility, even as we hear all these positive things about Victor. We haven't really seen him in game action, seen him in, at full speed. And until we do, I think that there's no way to know for sure when he might be ready to play.
ESPN's Dan Graziano with Armen Levack, 104.5 The Team. And Dan, NFL Insiders this year has a new time at 2:30. You're a part of it, and I know you're excited about this project and being on board this season.
It's me, and the headliners are Schefter and Mortensen and Bill Polian, but I'm part of that panel. They've had me hosted a few times, and I've been on the panel a few times as an insider. It's an hour of NFL information Monday to Friday on ESPN, and it's. I think they're going to do one on Sunday mornings now, too, before the Sunday NFL Countdown show. So, I think it's a good show because, it gets into the idea of what's going on behind the scenes and sort of what makes things go and tries to break news and all that kind of stuff. So it's been fun to see the network, try it and embrace it, and I think it's been a success.
ESPN NFL Nation reporter Dan Graziano at Dan Graziano ESPN on Twitter, and Dan Levack and myself are going to be at Giants camp next Wednesday doing our show live. So if you see two twerps trying to bug you, that's probably us. I'm just giving you a heads up.
Whatever you guys need, I will be there.
Graz, appreciate you, man.
Take it easy.